teacher and a science communicator. And I was asked by Design Terminal and X Europe to be the host of this event. Well, at least one of the hosts. You will see that later. Also, warm welcome from our partners too, F6S and The Next Web, Growth Tribe and TechChill, they all say hi. We are glad that so many of you could join us for this online summit. As you know, the focus of this event is Agritech and what is to come in agriculture. So our event is organized within the framework of X Europe, an EU-funded project of Horizon 2020. And the second cohort of X Europe is all about Agritech. So our goal is to bring together startups, corporates, and industry players to show the diversity of agriculture and also to inspire us as well. So the event has, as you know, 2 days. Today is all about Agritech, solutions and digitalization of agriculture. The most exciting topics will be elaborated during this day. And tomorrow we will focus on the hottest topics of agriculture, like impacts and adaptation of climate change, the water footprint for foods, and also COVID's effect in agriculture. It's also important to us to give you a platform too. So please do share your take on the topic. Use the chat room in Pine, and also feel free to ask questions. That is really important for us too. So we will begin our live stream with the present and future challenges of agriculture. So without further ado, let me introduce Doris Marquardt, the European Commission's Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development. Hi, Doris, do you hear me? Hi. Hello. I don't yet hear you? So, you are now live online. How are you feeling? You don't hear me. So, yeah, please turn on.
Raget,
Yeah,
good morning from Brussels. Yes, I can hear you well.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Okay, so first of all, are you okay? How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling perfect. You have a very warm welcome, so that is very motivating and inspiring. So I'm ready for the talk and exchange with you.
Okay, so well, let's dive in, and we can start with the main question is of this whole 2 days are the present challenges on agriculture. What is your take on that?
Yes, thanks for the question, and thanks first of all for the invitation and the kind introduction. So if we are looking at the challenges of agriculture today, I think we can differentiate between 3 types of challenges. So there are environmental and climate challenges, societal challenges, and economic challenges. So certainly, if we have a global view, the challenges vary from region to region. So globally, I think climate change and climate mitigation and climate adaptation present key challenge to the agriculture sector. So we know all that the sector is challenged by, for instance, heavy weather extremes and droughts or heat waves. On the other side, we also know that in the European Union at least, the sector contributes to climate change and also to environmental and degradation.
Yeah,
so there's urgent need for the sector to perform better as regards sustainability, to reduce, for instance, pesticides and also fertilizers and emission overall. And this urgent need for environmental performance and sustainability performance goes along with societal expectations. So for instance, there is the interest of the consumer that agriculture performs better. So at the same time, economically speaking, the consumers interested in affordable prices. And additionally, from the economic perspective, there are the global markets which put pressure on the sector in addition. So overall, we have 2 key challenges for the production and the sector. That means it should produce sustainable and at the same time at low costs.
And what do you think are the driving forces behind all the changes that are happening right now? For example, the digitalization as well.
Yeah, if we look at the response to the first question, we have on the one hand population growth, less agricultural land, And there's a pressure to produce more with regard to quality and quantity with less land. So there's a need for sustainable intensification. And here, digitalization offers opportunities for the sector because it can increase sustainability performance of the sector and also the competitiveness from an economic point of view. And while we find digitalization in several sectors across the board, that is a special opportunity for agriculture. At the same time, digitalization has enhanced not only because increasing availability of technologies like AI, computer technologies, and yeah, Agritech, I think we will learn about more in the next 2 days,
Yeah, of course, that
but
is
also
one of
the
our main goals.
availability of free data, particularly GNSS and free Earth observation data. So that is really a chance and opportunity for the sector, and that drives also the digitalization process.
And what is needed to, well, not just to speed up, but to deploy this process of digitalization?
Yeah, and so here I would like to take an European Union perspective. So we know if we look at the agri-tech, what is available on the market and what is finally deployed, there is a gap. And what is needed is to create an environment enabling the farmers to really make use effectively of digital technologies. So first of all, we can start with broadband, digital skills,
So really at the
advisory
basics,
services,
like education.
research and
Observe.
innovation, and that's only some. And then finally, there's one aspect I would like to highlight that is facilitating data sharing and increasing the trust in data sharing, and to make also available public data. Because as the community may know, data is decisive for the effectiveness of digital technologies.
Well, you are in the middle of all this happening. Can you tell us some promising examples or something that is really beautifully happening right now?
So I think it's difficult to point to one example. So at least
Tell us
the
more.
digital technologies is quite broad. We can start from blockchain on the one hand to AI on the other hand. But if you look, for instance, at all the EIP operational group, EIP is the European Innovation Partnership for Agriculture, then you find a range of good operational group project examples. And the same applies to Horizon 2020. You are one project among them. What I'm really keen and where a lot of, and you know, I've worked in several countries and
Yeah.
I also accompany several projects. And there are many nice examples where you find simple applications which are very cheap and which combine public data and farm data,
Like,
and which allow the farmers to get an entry point
like with the
into
phone
digital
can be usable?
technologies without huge investments. And I think that is an important step to drive and boost digitalization across all farmers.
I see. I see. Like tools that we can use with, for example, my smartphone or
Yes,
other easy
exactly.
technologies.
And you don't need to buy a big sensor or big machinery. Yes, for sure, some farmers can afford it, but to raise the interest and to get the farmers, all the farmers across the board, familiar with digital technologies, that's a nice entry point.
And if we are already at the entry point and we want to elaborate more on that and go into the depth of digitalization, and for example, there are viewers who are interested in that, what is your suggestion how to tackle that and how to dive in this Agritech how they should do that?
I think what is important, and I think this project like Agritech or other Horizon 2020 projects, it's important that they have a strong demonstration power, meaning taking the farmer at the hand and showing them what are the costs and benefits and demonstrate how it works in practice. And that is one very important element to boost the digital transformation in agriculture in the European Union. So, and then it's combined with advisory services and really capacity building and digital skills. So I think a combination of all of that creates an enabling environment, allowing farmers. So, and finally, at the end, you can think about investment support to supplement it and to really get it work.
Mm-hmm. And what is your take on the future? How do you see this all happening? And what is the best scenario that you can imagine? Tell us about that. And also that how can we help that to happen?
I think with regard to the future, I would like first to warn a little bit about some risks.
Mm-hmm.
So there is first of all the risk that farmers are overwhelmed by the portfolio and offer of digital technologies, that they're a little bit lost what is the best one for me. What I would like to remind that we also have to consider the risk of a digital divide, not only between regions because of broadband availability, but also between farmers, so large ones, smaller ones, that we really have it in mind and take everyone on board. And then there is the risk also we have to think about employment structures in rural areas so that we don't forget the relevance of the digital transformation for rural communities. So that is good that we keep it in mind. As it regards the positive examples, that I think one highlight is to increase the transparency along the food supply chain. So thinking in the overall agri-food system and the increasing demand on the one hand from the agriculture side and the food producer side in transparency, for instance, as it regards prices, but on the other side, the increasing interest from the consumers in where is the food grown, how it has been produced, what is the quality, is it sustainability. So there, digital technologies such as blockchain can offer a great opportunity. So that is only one example. And I mentioned at the beginning the potential for increasing the sustainability performance and that's to contribute to the Green Deal. So I could elaborate further depending on what your time
Well,
allows.
we have like 3 more minutes for that. So please feel to share what are you most enthusiastic about in this process?
Um, if I look at the overall digitalization process, there is one phenomenon which really fascinates me. On the other side, it also presents a challenge and challenges me personally. So it's a combination of technology meeting nature and the culture of farming. And to combine that and finding the balance is really a challenge, but also fascinating. So digital technologies can help to perform better managing nature, enabling the farmers to take decisions, but still there is a farming culture and the farmer is in the driving seat of taking the decision. So the digital technologies, particularly the data and information generated, is a facilitator. On the one hand, you don't want digital technologies to destroy the farming culture. So you can compare it with us. If we are running or hiking, we have a smartwatch. The
Yeah, we
smartwatch
can.
may track our performance
It
and
does.
they may guide and they may even tell me how I feel, but I don't want it. So I have to take it in the driving seat and want to decide when I 10 more kilometers, do I want to enhance my performance? And this is quite similar to the farmer. So I, as a runner or as a hiker, I decide, okay, now I leave out my watch and only want to enjoy nature. And that is up to the farmer as well. The final decision is the animal well on, is it healthy, has to rely with the farmer. And I think that is enthusiastic because it's fascinating that digital help to manage nature. But at the same time, we have to consider that there is a farming culture behind it, which we don't want to destroy, and where we have also rural communities behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it today. So I enjoy digital technologies because we can communicate with the Agritech community despite of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and we can discuss and exchange. Digital technologies allow that. But we are human beings and we exchange. And at some point, I would probably also look forward to meet the architect community in person and to really discuss because there is a personal dimension and not a known mediated communication. And I think that are the enthusiasm what digital technologies can allow for. To the same time, they have limitations.
Okay. Well, this conversation has been really, really amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas with us. And hope to see you soon around our programs. I'm sure we're going to meet.
Thanks to you, and I wish you an interesting and exciting event. And I look forward to the results and the inspiration we get all of that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very
Really
much. We shall be coming back soon with our next guest, so just stay tuned. Back. Hello again. We are here again, and we continue, as you saw, with the rise of digitalization in agriculture. Our two wonderful guests are Tamás Éder from Bonafarm ZRT and Grigoris Chatsikostas from Food Scale Hub. Welcome. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Good morning to everybody.
Wonderful. I hear you both. So the technology is working. I mean, that should be like, if we talk about the digitalization, I'm glad the technology does work. So how are you?
I'm fine, but there's just a huge pressure on us because we are in the very first discussion group of this 2 days event. And if we are boring, people will switch the channel. So
well, we should avoid
the pressure is great on us.
Exactly. Then let's just dive in. Like, we already tackled a little bit the digitalization in agriculture, but how much actually is agriculture digitalized right now?
Well, if I can start, I could say it's certainly digitalized beyond its true potential.
Oh, how do you mean that beyond its true potential?
I mean that there is lots of potential to further digitalize the sector, but I would like to point out the reasons as well. The main reason is the fact that by definition, the agri-food sector is a low-margin sector. This inevitably brings the necessity to find technologies that are mature. So most likely what we see is that technologies are maturing in sectors with higher margins, like the healthcare sector, the banking sector, or the other sectors related to industry. And then once they are mature, we are able to apply them in agriculture. So this is one important aspect why it's happening like that. But it's for sure that in the future, and to the extent that we will need to apply sustainable intensification methods, we certainly need to digitalize it more. And I think that we are in this event, all of us, for this reason, to find ways, to find paths, and to establish collaborations to provide further digitalization in the agriculture sector.
That is very exact how you say it. And I really like your background. Is that an avocado there?
Yes, exactly. This is we are obsessed with avocados in food scale.
Oh yeah, okay. Tomasz, what is your take on this about digitalization?
I agree with Grigoris. Digitalization will have in the future huge effect on agriculture, but I feel today, as in the case of many new technologies or new inventions, they are overestimated for the short period, but underestimated their effects for the long period.
Can you tell an example?
That's what I feel now, that if we follow the news, let's say about the new alternative meat or dairy products, we feel that 90% of the consumer are already consuming it, because it's our news in every day and it's really hyped. But the truth is that these products are still marginal in the consumer basket. But on the long term, I'm sure they will have a much bigger effect. And this is the same for digitalization in the agriculture. There's a huge pressure on the agriculture. As Grigoris said, it's a low margin business. You have to be very efficient if you want to survive. And digitalization is a new tool for efficiency. Certainly, there are some other effects which push us to this direction, as it was mentioned in the presentation earlier. Sustainability is more and more important for the consumer, just like transparency, just like traceability, ethical production, and digitalization can give us the background to prove to the consumer that we are good in those fields.
And what are the technologies that were, for example, in the hype when you both started the business, and how about now?
Oh, thank you for this time travel. Well, as far as I remember, because it was many years ago, I think it was for me, it was 17 years ago when I entered in the digital farming project. I remember that the most exciting technologies at those points were web databases. That we could not collect data electronically like we can do now with sensors, with IoT or anything, but we were able to put data manually in some web database so it can be accessible by others remotely. And another exciting technology that we were looking at this point was barcode stickers, because this would help us to achieve traceability. Actually, the first project I got involved was about traceability of olive oil in Greece. So you can imagine that at this point it was a very big issue. How can you follow up the production from the consumer back to the farm?
And how about now then?
I think I started earlier.
Sorry, I didn't want to disturb you, Grigoris. No, just I was curious about the difference between the then and now, because the then, yeah, I remember the barcode things, although I'm not a farmer, just a teacher. But then what is the big difference now? For example, a farmer.
Well, I think now what we're looking for, we're trying to solve the same problems, but now instead of barcodes, we have QR codes. And instead of web databases, we're talking about blockchain and IoT. But the problems we're still trying to solve are essentially the same. It's about trust and accountability across the value chain. It's about being able to solve problems in a quick and effective way. And I think that, I don't know, maybe Thomas would have different experience. He started earlier, so maybe you remember even more legacy technologies than I do.
So Tamas, what
that's
is
what
your
I
take on
wanted
that?
to say. That I started earlier. In those years, we didn't even discuss digitalization. The computer, when I started, was Commodore 56 or something like that. So the truth is that then the hype in connection with new technologies in the agriculture were just like minimum tillage, which is a very important technology, and concentration, bigger and bigger machines and bigger food processor companies. But we didn't talk about digitalization. That's the truth. I started my career earlier. Sorry, guys.
So how about now? Let's talk about the now and the future. How does it affect farmers? How does it affect people in this technology in agriculture? What is your take on that?
Well, today, I think that today we are into a different type of problem. Today, we are trying very much not to disappoint farmers. We're trying very much not to overpromise. Because if you read any newspaper, any popular science magazine, they say data is the new oil, and for farmers. And then the farmer thinks, cool, I have oil in my farm. That's great. Let's make big money. Or they're telling you that these technologies can really solve this. They can increase efficiency by 50%, by 60%. Is it really like that? I mean, nowadays, I think that the biggest damage that is happening to the story of digitalizing agriculture is overpromising. And I think it's a responsibility of our sector, of the people who are providing digital technologies, to be careful and not to overpromise, because farmers are this kind of customers that if you fail if you fail to fulfill their expectations once, you lose them forever, and then you are losing a whole generation. And that's the biggest risk, in my opinion.
Tamas?
It's a very dualistic sector. There are farmers, producers who are extremely conservative from production point of view. And there are guys who are extremely open to the new technologies. We will see very different reaction from different group of farmers in the future, which will create some problems. And I think later we will discuss it. There are already some tough fight between the traditional agriculture producers and with the new technology users.
Let's dive more into that. Let's dive in. What are those problems now?
Let's look at the alternative meat or the alternative dairy or milk products. We even discuss whether they can use the name of meat or meat products or milk products. And there is a tough fight between the new producers or the new kind of technologies and the traditional old technologies. In a development we are facing with, there are always losers. Those who will lose some market share or even existence. Certainly, they are fighting hard to survive. But given that the agriculture is dualist, and it looks like that the consumers are also very dualist, those traditional agriculture producers still have opportunity to survive because many consumers are keeping their traditions and buying traditional foods.
Grigoris, would you like to add something on that?
Exactly. I would also like to add another dimension to that. Agri-food production is not only a typical economic transaction. It has a very strong social component. It has a very strong educational component. It has a component which is related to preserving biodiversity, which is related to preserving life in rural areas, and so on. So I think we need to rethink from scratch new models for traditional agriculture also to survive.
And how is that possible to rethink? You say rethink, but what needs to be done to do that?
I think that technology has a role to play there as well. because we can apply technology to create communities, we can apply technologies to support the so-called community-supported agriculture, to support farmers who are farming in a traditional way. We can use AR and VR technologies to create content, to create educational content of this type of activities, and we need to maintain this part. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't believe that the entire planet can be fed with traditional farming techniques. That would be unrealistic to say. But I would like to highlight that given the important social and cultural value of traditional farming practices, we need to preserve them as well. And we need to provide viable business models. Of course, someone who's getting into traditional agriculture is not expecting to become rich as the founder of Amazon or something. But on the other hand, we need to preserve ways that these things are not going to be lost. It's similar to our biodiversity. There is a strong social value behind farming that needs to be preserved.
Just back to that, that digitalization gives opportunity for the traditional farmers to, for example, digital sale using internet to sell products can give opportunity for those traditional farmers who are producing traditional products and they cannot reach the retail chains because they are just too big for them. And through the internet, they can find their own consumers. That's an opportunity for them, and possibly they will use it very much in the future.
Mm-hmm. Is there any suspicion in people's minds towards digitalization or any other aspects of what is happening now?
I think that the European agriculture is concentrating on digitalization a little bit more than maybe other agriculture territories in the earth, because in Europe, the other very important development field, biotechnology, is looked as a suspicious territory. Mm-hmm. In the agriculture, in the world, there are two fields where the development is extremely fast, and it looks like will be very fast in the future. That's digitalization. I mean, all the things together with automatization and robotization and stuff like that. So basically IT stuff and biotechnology. The problem in Europe, in my mind, that the European society is very suspicious. So in Europe, the biotechnology usage will not develop so fast like in other parts of the world. And if we want to keep our competitiveness with the other part of the world, we have to go ahead in digitalization.
How?
Hopefully, consumers will not be suspicious on digitalization.
And so we should push, educate, and practice more. Can you give us like real life examples about that?
Real life examples. Oh, Grigoris, go ahead.
Grigoris, go.
Sorry for that. Real life examples, I would see, for example, when, first of all, going back to this topic, I think that it becomes very important with respect to the second thought, to the suspicion. There are two elements. First of all, Andrea, your job becomes very important. The science communicator job becomes extremely important. To explain to people, to put the things on the table in the right way.
And that's also, what we are doing right now as well.
One thing that is equally important is the ethical monitoring. We need to have somehow self-regulation across the sector, but also through the competent authorities to do a bit of ethical monitoring of what is suggested and what not. Now, going to practical examples of effects of digitalization. Let's look at the typical example of robots. This is a very huge question, and I think, Thomas, you will agree with me. There is now a situation where you have huge labor shortage. Please feel free to share the message you get from your sector, but I see that we are lacking hands. We're lacking hands to come and do the job. On the other hand, there is a huge discussion, will robots steal our jobs and what happens to the jobs that robots are stealing and so on and so forth. Here we need to look at the problem with a clear mind, with cold blood, let's say, and analyze case by case how it really goes. I think that this is a long debate, and the the best way, in my opinion, to solve suspicions, but also to push digitalization to serve the needs of society is broad dialogue. We need to put people together and we need to explain the facts to people. So, Thomas, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We have to discuss it, but we are under pressure. Yes, you're right. Labor is not enough. We have huge labor shortages, even in this part of Europe. I'm sorry, and I'm sure that many people are watching us from West Europe, where that problem is even much bigger. But even here in East Europe, we are facing with this problem. So it's a need to find some other solution, and that's robotization. And if you look at new greenhouses, for example, built in this area, they are using technologies with less and less and less manual labor. And that will be the future in many, many other fields of the agriculture. We hope so, because that's the answer. We have to see that less and less people would like to work 16, 18 hours in a day outside, sometimes in extremely silly weather. And we are a little bit more, we would like to be a little more comfortable as a society. And it means less and less manual labor around the pigs and the chickens and the cows and in the garden. And we have to find some solution for that, and that's automatization.
Though it's very healthy, I can tell, like a biology teacher, it makes you even stronger if you go and work outside. So what do you think, which ecosystems in Europe are the most promising ones? Grigoris.
Well, I would like to ask the entire community of agtech and food tech to look beyond the usual suspects. I mean, traditionally, the strongest ecosystems you can find in Netherlands, UK, France, Germany. But I think that we have a new generation of agtech and food tech entrepreneurs, which is really amazing. And it comes from countries you would less expect them to come from. I can speak from my own experience. I'm Greek, but I've been working also in Serbia, in Turkey, and recently in the Baltics quite a lot, in Lithuania. And I see how in the accelerator programs we have built in the past, and the ones we are designing for the future, we see an extremely huge potential. We see people who know very well the technologies. We see people who are coming from farming families, so they are understanding the problems very much. Plus, we are seeing a little bit less of the hype. Because I have to tell you, in the past years, in the startup scenes of London and Berlin, it was more hype than substance. And I think that in our sector cannot afford overhyped and overpromising solutions. What we need is people who understand the technology, but also understand the problems. I can give you examples of successful entrepreneurs who were the sons of farmers, and then they developed inside the university, they developed ideas, and then they took them into companies. But I know the Hungarian ecosystem has also some promising activities. So maybe Thomas would like to add a little bit on that.
I would like to look at it from another view. I hope that projects like this one we are just sitting in will help Europe be a healthy ecosystem for that kind of development. The truth is that I'm a little bit afraid of that in several sectors, Europe became a little bit lazy. And we have to speed up Europe from that point of view, because other parts of the world, mainly the States and Southeast Asia, is pushing the pedal to the metal, as they say. So we have to create ecosystem for these kind of innovations and these kind of startups, which will help us to solve those problems, which is comfortable for them. And a project like this one, sponsored by the EU, think will help. I would like to be optimist, but sometimes it's not easy. Europe is a little bit, looks like lazy from that point of view, but we have to hope that we will speed up, because the pressure is huge on us.
So then let's take a look on the rising stars or the best practices or those startups who really made something. Can you tell us some examples, Grigoris?
Yes, certainly. Well, to begin with, I would like to talk about examples. I don't want to mention the companies with their names, but I would like to talk about examples from my own home country in Greece, where we have amazing solutions that are using augmented reality to understand the farm and help farmers applies in arable farming to apply solutions for fertilization on the go. I can also talk about devices that help to follow the conditions of post-harvesting batches of product, how they move along the value chain. We can also look at advanced technologies in the other side of Eastern Europe, let's say in Lithuania, where they apply spectroscopy in order to identify the quality of meat, the quality of fish, and also to identify food fraud, to see if the wine we're buying is really Italian or if the olive oil we're buying is really Greek. I can continue about solutions that are using blockchain to help farmers to get affordable insurance contracts. So there are certainly lots of things happening, and we see also we see also that the so-called smart money, the investors are putting their money in such solutions, and I think that this is the biggest gap now. That we need investors, we need investment vehicles to understand the sector to be involved more.
Tamas, would you like to add on?
What I see as getting to be bigger and bigger in scale is precision farming. So farming, when they optimize the usage of pesticides and other stuff, optimize to the real need of the plants when they use it. Precision farming is very important, not just because of efficiency point of view, but because of the sustainability point of view. And it looks to me that the really closest technology which could be used many farmers in the early future, despite the fact that it's not cheap, but it looks efficient and useful. And it looks that when a farmer see how it works, he is really satisfied and he wants to use it very much.
Mm. What is both of you, your personal take on future? What do you think will work, and what is the best scenario?
That's a great answer. Thomas, please start.
I said before that I'm an optimist, so I hope that Europe will speed up from that point of view, and we will have a much more efficient, transparent, and sustainable agriculture and food processing system using most of the tools which will be given by the new technologies. I believe even in the new food products we just discussed, and I believe the new and efficient technology, even city farming or artificial farming, in the future it will have a huge effect in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Grigoris?
Well, I would like to finish by a little bit of a recap what we had from Doris earlier. So, what do we have now? We are facing a huge issue with respect to our goal, with respect to Green Deal, to go towards carbon neutral food production. Also, we are facing huge labor shortages for many reasons, due to society improvement in general. People don't like to work in harsh environment, etc. But on the other hand, we should not forget the farmers. We need to place all this framework into the sustainability of the farmers. And one common catchphrase in my networks is that you cannot ask farmers to go green when their accounts are on red. So what we need to do is we need to certainly work closer with them to develop affordable technologies that they can apply quickly. If I would say something is that when I started working in this sector, I was dreaming that one day maybe we can make geeks and farmers speak the same language. I think that this remains a dream up to date. So we really need to graft the hacker ethos to the farmers. We need really for the younger generation of farmers to get them into technologies and develop solutions that they will allow them to be financially and environmentally sustainable for the generations to come.
Thank you very much. And I heard from my team that there was an incoming question. Can you repeat it into my ear so I can ask them? So what are the opportunities for those who have very small farms, like smaller than like 10 hectares? That's an incoming question for the end of our discussion.
I think digitalization will push them to work together. They have to increase their cooperation incentives, because that's how they can use the digital tools efficiently. On the other hand, as we discussed earlier, traditional agriculture and traditional production will have a market share in the future too. There is a part of the society which would like to consume traditional products, and I'm sure that even with 10 hectares or 15 hectares or 20 hectares, in a smart way, using smart technology, certainly producing special plants, 10 or 15 hectares with standard wheat may be not enough for survival, but planting special crops and using a traditional way, that can be enough for the survival.
You, Grigoris, you were also nodding at the beginning.
Yes, I was thinking it's something that we are ready to start working from January 1st. For example, how can small farmers benefit from robotic technologies? How can we develop robots as a service business model in a way that things that are not possible due to the small size of the farmers become possible because they network properly? And then if they network together, if they connect together, but if they also connect with the consumers, those consumers who like to use traditional products, who like to have a relationship with the producers, I think that the farmer of the future is the connected farmer, not necessarily the rich or the farmer with lots of land in his possession or her possession, but the one who is connected across the entire value chain with his or her peers and with the consumer.
Okay. If you had a billboard there where you could write anything, one message, what would that message be? Both of you.
Believe in science and believe in the scientific agriculture.
So your take is believe in science and believe in the scientific agriculture. Okay.
I would write good for business equals good for environment.
Good for business equals good for environment.
Equals good for environment.
Is it true? Can you elaborate a little bit more?
It should be true, yes. Yes, I would love to elaborate. It should be true. I think that the future of Europe, our financial sustainability in the future, relies exactly that we can do things differently. And we can do things differently with respect to environmental performance, with respect of mitigating climate change. I think that the European Green Deal, apart from a political context, it's also the mission of our generation. And we owe to the future generations, to our children, to our grandchildren, we owe to make Europe sustainable and carbon neutral. And that's why I think that the new business should always look at this direction.
Great answers. Do you have anything to add to our conversation, which is now coming to an end? Tomasz is like the last smiles, or both of us can just smile into the camera. Like, thank you very much. So, anything for a closing?
Be optimistic.
I think I enjoyed very much.
Okay.
Enjoyed very much, and I think that I will. This is also something indicative. I think that I will get in contact with Thomas to discuss about ideas for alternative proteins, because this is a topic that we are also addressing very much. So, if your summit has the mission to bring people together and to kickstart collaborations, I think that you've done an excellent job on this.
Oh, perfect. So it's
Okay,
already been.
we'll do that.
Okay. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for this conversation. And thank you very much for coming to this lovely event of ours. And I'm sure if you go on working together, then something good is going to happen there. So thank you very much for your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for all. Bye-bye.
And everyone else, we'll meet soon.